3 is for all of our local elected officials. So there are 4 of us up here. Okay. What is one concrete thing you're proud of in terms of conservation efforts in your community? And what do you need, let me get the rest of the question, what do you need to continue building on that success to address the challenges we've been talking about tonight? And how would the opportunities Stephanie just mentioned help your community?
It's apparent I sat on the end, at the wrong end of the table. So the one thing that I'm really proud of in Crow Wing County is our comprehensive water plan that was developed several years ago, and it continues to be in place. It's one of the top water plans in the state and looked at as a model for other areas. So I'm very proud of that. But that's a living document that continually has to be looked at and assessed and sort of redeveloped as time goes on. So the staff do a great job of looking at that and making sure that we're staying current as we can possibly be. You know, government is always about a week behind everything else, so but they still do a great job of that. So that's the one thing that I'm really proud of. What can we do with the state legislature? First of all, I would like to thank Senator Ruud for all the efforts with the Soil and Water Board and her work in that area. But it isn't just about the state legislature. Crow Wing County also has a responsibility to be a partner in that process when we talk about funding some of these projects and that. And so I don't want to put it all on the state legislature. We have a budget too, and we need to make sure that we're prioritizing the things that we feel need to be addressed. And again, I go back to the economic impact to our county, $233 million worth of tourism in 2017. That's a huge number for us. So if we don't have those clean lakes and clean waters, we aren't going to have 233 million. We'll be broke in this county. So it's going to be a partnership between the state legislature and us to fund the programs that keep our county a viable place for people to come. We've been gifted with an opportunity here, and we need to make sure that we take responsibility for that, not only from people around the state, but from us locally. So every one of us are an advocate for the clean water in our area. So we don't walk out of here tonight and not know that we don't feel like we don't have a job to do. We all have to stay engaged with the public and with the people that come into our area to make it the place they want to be. So that's my point. I just want people to understand that we all have that responsibility. When was I done? I thought that
give him the hook.
It's a problem I had at the council meetings too.
There I could kick him under the table.
Yeah.
Not knowing how to prepare for tonight, I've got buco notes here. I have enough information here that would make Cliff Clavin from Cheers to speechless. But I had kind of chosen 2 things. One is stormwater transferring, and of course wastewater treatment. Wastewater treatment between Brainerd and us, $30 million state-of-the-art a facility that's built for many years to come. But stormwater is really a big issue. I never realized how expensive water was to get rid of it, and we have spent literally millions of dollars to work with that. Stormwater going into the Mississippi is monitored just as closely as the wastewater is. It's very important. And so that's a big thing. In 2006, we developed a stormwater management program, and that was based on usage of the system. So in other words, based on impervious surface. So not to pick on them at Walmart, for example, with all of their impervious surface and their 5-acre building, all of the runoff that they are contributing versus Mr. and Mrs. Resident in Parkwood or something like that. So it's based on a fee schedule based on participation and actually using of that facilities. But in the meantime, and you probably have read, we are working now with we're trying to buy 17 acres of the south part of the old golf course to move our stormwater from down the west side of 371 onto the highway, to slow it down a little bit before it gets to the Arboretum and then heads out to the Mississippi River. The twofold purpose: number one is to slow the water down, be able to, the Arboretum in the past has been concerned about the volume of water that, just another piece of trivia here, but I was contacted by ARB and they said that their water flow had increased by about 25%. And I tried to think how that could have been from us, but it came from MnDOT redoing those turning lanes with all of that asphalt and blacktop. So all of a sudden now there's another 25% of water, which we had nothing to do with, but now we got to deal with it. So I'm done, sorry.
Well, I want to kind of start by saying that I had no idea I was going to be up here today. I have absolutely no notes to talk about. But what I am proud of is our little town, it has a real willingness to try to do whatever it can do to correct any stormwater or sanitary issues that we have. We struggle with trying to figure out how to pay for it, and that's what our internal struggle is now. But I think from border to border there, everybody wants to do everything that they can. There's a couple groups that get together, they work with WPOA, and that's what I'm proud of. You can have the rest of my time.
Thanks, everybody. You know, nobody cares more about the water than the people that are living on it. And I think that I'm kind of proud of the fact that we're starting to open up the communication, the conversation, working with lake associations, listening to them, finding out what their needs are and what they are trying to do. Obviously, we get a large sum of money to work on our AIS, or invasive species, for our lakes, so that, but we're partnering better with our lake associations. The second thing is that we're also currently looking at our lake improvement districts. This is an opportunity which is sometimes referred to as LIDs, where lakes again can do self-imposed tax, so that they can have monies available to address the AIS issues, so that they can make sure that they can clean up. There's been some real success. Sasquatch is one of them that has eliminated a number of their invasive species. So I think that just getting the conversation going and being open to talk about it and not to be shutting it down is probably the most thing I'm most proud of.
I think I'm most proud of the legacy amendment. I do chair the natural environment and natural resources and the legacy. And keeping the constitutionality of the legacy and making sure that the funds that the voters voted for go to what they wanted them to go for.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes a struggle because there's a lot of need for that money. But I think the Constitution is very clear where we should spend that money. And last year, the legacy is on the biennium, so we passed it last year. And we passed it by one of the largest majorities that we've ever had, because we had a buy-in from everybody. Everybody got to have a say in that, and how the money was spent as long as it was constitutionally dedicated. And we spent $700 million last year in the legacy. It's a big fund, and it goes into 4 different portions. And I think over $400 million was spent on clean water.
Wow.
But what we've tasked the Clean Water Council to do now is we've spent a lot of planning money and figuring out where we need to spend the money. And now we need to start spending that money on implementation and funding the projects that we need to fund. So we've charged them they've been meeting regularly now. We don't do this again until 2021. But we have really charged them and tasked them to look at the implementation, and then we want measurable results. Because if we're going to renew the legacy again, if we're going to ask the voters to renew it again, we have to show them what we've done and a measurable result. And so you'll see that the impaired waters list came out, and everybody went, oh. But it's really a good thing because we didn't know before. We didn't have an inventory, so we've inventoried all those things. So then in 10 years from now, we can inventory again and see what we've done and see what the improvement is. Because if you don't have a baseline, you don't know where you've gone. So we're really excited about where the Clean Water Council is and where the funds are going. And that's, I guess, what I'm most proud of.
All right.